Curiosity is the most important psychological trait that human beings have, and it helps them to learn each and everything within their life. From the moment they're toddlers until the time they die, all the time that they pass between these two extremes is usually made more and more beautiful by asking questions. And it's the ability of the human beings which does not just help them to invent or discover new things, it also helps them to develop all those functional skills which are actually important in order to become more and more functional human being according to the requirements of the social order that they're a part of. Now, what happens is that when we are toddlers, we see that a toddler tries to feel everything by putting it into his mouth. And by tasting it, he wants to know what he is or what it is. Now, what happens is that the moment he becomes conscious of the world around him, and the moment he realizes and he gets the ability to speak, what happens is that now he can verbalize his emotions, now he can verbalize his feelings, now he can verbalize his curiosities, his wonders, and now he wants to know about everything, and now he does it through questioning. Now, this ability to ask questions is perceived as cute by the world until we are children. But the moments we become adults, now the society do not want us to ask those questions. Because at the end of the day, the people who are the custodians and are responsible for the protection of that social order are those people who are the beneficiaries of the status quo. And they want to sustain this social order, this religious, this political order, because they don't want it to die. And it can only die when people can start questioning its validity and its credibility. So, the first job of a social order is to subjugate people and force them into a mechanical line to follow some guidelines, rules, and regulations which have been established by those people who control the dynamics of that society, and they're not allowed to question them. Now, in that way, what we realize is that when we turn into adults, we have to earn a livelihood for us and for our family. And those people who are not pretty much comfortable uh, with the social standards of a society actually become isolated or abandoned by a huge proportion of the population. And they do not get those opportunities, which are usually pretty easily available to those people who follow the rules and the guidelines of that society or that community. So, what happens is that the adults realize that if they have to move forward, they will have to turn their eyes away from reality. They will have to kill that curious nature within them, and that's the only way that they can move forward. And so, what they do is that they kill that ambitious nature and they just become responsible citizens, ironically, and they just do what they are told to do. Now, when we look at children, what we see is that they run really rapidly. When they're excited about something or there is something which has captivated their attention, they have a list of 1,000 questions, that one question lined up after another, and they want to know the answers to all those questions. And they will not be satisfied until they get all those answers. And once they know each and everything, once they think that they have dissected and bisected each and everything about that thing that excited them, now they move on to something else and they want to know about that. Now, the only difference between an adult and a child is that that excitement and juice of life has been taken away by that adult just because he has lost his ability to ask questions. And when you lose your ability to ask questions, you lose your ability to learn. And when you lose your ability to learn, your life stops becoming meaningful, productive, and progressive. So, the biggest message is that you must never stop learning. And if you really want to learn the art of learning, you should start from something that you're very passionate about. Now, just think about it. When you're doing something that you're passionate about, time passes and you never realize. And there is a least amount of psychological and limbic friction that you have to face while you are doing those things which excite you. If you're doing something productive and you become really good at it, what happens is that you get a positive social feedback loop about that. and then you want to do more of that because you want more social validation. And in that way, you keep learning and learning and learning. On the other hand, when you're trying to learn something which does not excite you, which is boring and mundane for you, there are two ways in which learning will occur. Number one, you will be very good at memorizing the information and memorizing the knowledge. And what's going to happen is that in that way, you will be able to pass a test. But on the other hand, because your mind is not engaged in that, all you're doing is that memorizing that chunk of information. What's happening is that your mind is not engaged in the learning process. So, learning actually occurs when you read about something. Question should be there in your mind about that, or how are you going to apply it into your own life in the future must be in your mind. In that way, you actually connect and associate with that learning process. But when you're learning about those things which are a source of boredom and a source of discomfort for you, you're not going to learn a lot in life because your mind is not engaged in the learning process. So you must always start learning those things which are actually a source of interest for you and a source of passion for you. And then you should start becoming world class at those things. But you must never leave the side of learning, and you must dedicate a significant portion of your day learning new things about the thing that you're passionate about. If you do that, and if you never let that curiosity die within you, your life is going to be very meaningful, and you can become a very valuable member of the society, which can actually change the course of a society. You can actually look at all those people who have lived before you and who tried to question the validity and the credibility of his social, political, religious, or business order of their time. And we know that they were abandoned by those people, a significant portion of the society who were beneficiaries of that social system. But those people who stayed persistent, whether they are prophets, whether they are political thinkers, whether they are political leaders, whether they are entrepreneurs, anybody who has done anything in this world which has become a source of a paradigmatic shift within the world, and it actually changed the way human beings lived their life. They were criticized for their difference of opinion by the people of their time. But when they stayed persistent and they believed in what they were doing, at the end, what happened was that other people also embraced their ways of living. So that conviction can only come when you believe in the process. And that belief in the process can only come through knowledge. And that knowledge only comes when you never leave the side of learning new things every day. Stay curious and keep learning.